What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Trippe. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Live podcast. We interview the very best real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders all throughout the country. Today is no different. I've got my great friend, Mr. Marc Pelletz, with me. How's it going today, Marc?
It's going great down here in wonderful sunny Florida. Good to see you, Brian.
It is. It's beautiful down there. I've been down there a few times to see you in Sarasota. And I just want to kind of start off, Marc, just tell everybody that doesn't know who you are, tell everybody who you are and what you do specifically in real estate.
Well, my name is Marc Pelletz, and I'm down here in Sarasota, Florida. I've been in real estate for, if you put it all together, hate to say this, but close to 40 years. But in the last 20 years, specifically down here in Sarasota, Florida, we've been buying real estate, holding real estate, flipping real estate. I've flipped over 1,000 properties in the last decade in just Sarasota, Manatee County, a small area that have done those kind of numbers, I believe. And I have a portfolio of rentals, over 200 rental properties. We have a full service real estate brokerage that manages properties. We manage over 600 properties here, and we're growing a training education center. We're helping other people become successful in the industry, and mostly I do whatever I want to do these days, and it seems that I want to do more than people think I should be doing, but it's all good. Happy to be here with you.
Well, Marc, it's really interesting. You list all these things that you've done, and it's quite impressive. It's incredible, and especially that last thing that you said, the lifestyle piece. You do whatever you want to do. A lot of people, I think, would love to get to that point, and a lot of people I know think that real estate is a vehicle to get them to that point. What would you say is attributed to your success to get you to that point of that financial freedom piece, that time freedom piece? What would you say has been the thing to get you to that point?
Well, you know me, Brian, it's all about the mindset. So I think it was beginning out early on, making up my mind where I was going and just putting one foot in front of the other and moving it in the direction of a goal that I had clearly envisioned, put on an index card like you hear on Think and Grow Rich, and just followed that path one day at a time.
Marc, that sounds, so you hear a lot of, you mentioned a book, and there are lots of books that talk about this, and you even wrote a book that talks about this as well. And we're going to get to this here in a second, but you say all these things. What, for the average person that might be listening to this, give me something tangible. Like, I feel like just writing something down on a card it's not like poof, it's going to appear. Give me something like, or maybe it does appear. I don't know, but like, give me something maybe a little bit more tangible than that.
Well,
or something
I know what kind of you're thinking about. Massive action, massive results. It all sounds like what everybody talks about, taking massive action, but really it begins in the day and taking specific action in the direction of what you want. Picture somebody who's working out, who just started working out at the gym and is overweight or not in shape. It just doesn't happen overnight. It starts with making a decision today and taking that next step tomorrow, maybe getting a trainer or a mentor or moving in that direction. But it takes specific action on a daily basis, persistent, consistent action in the direction of what you want. So it starts with a thought, and that thought transfers into a specific goal and then a mindset around that.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's persistent and consistency. And I think a lot of people nowadays lack that, Marc. Do you see that? I know you're training a lot of people. You go to a lot of events. Do you see that a lot of people just lack that discipline piece?
Well, that's what's missing. That, in my opinion, is the key ingredient to any type of success in any type of industry, and even more so in the real estate industry, because it doesn't happen overnight. I'm not one of these guys who's going to tell you can get rich quick. Maybe some people do. I don't know how to do that. Maybe you get lucky and make some big deals and you're able to leverage that into something else. But the only thing that I've known how to do is day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, stay on track with the goal that I'm going for and continue to do the same things.
So, Marc, let's talk about some of these daily actions, some of these things that you're doing every day. For someone who's brand new getting started and they believe, they've got the mindset, they've got the belief, they just don't know what to do. They just don't have the know-how. What would you say to that person? How would you direct that person? They want to get going. They believe it. They believe in themselves. They're gung-ho. They're ready to go. What do they do?
Well, the first thing I would do, if you want to cut corners and get there quicker and when I say quicker, that doesn't mean overnight success, is find yourself a mentor.
Okay.
Find yourself a coach, somebody who's not only been there, but is also doing it today in today's marketplace, and follow a plan that they have that may be working, not maybe working, is working for them on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, I like it. Get a mentor, follow in the footsteps of people that have already done it or that are currently doing it. So, Marc, I want to dig into some of this stuff that you're talking about at the beginning of the show, the 200 rental properties. Did you think, because I know your story and you actually kind of alluded to it a little bit, you did real estate and then you stopped and then you got back into real estate. Tell that story. Talk about that. What happened that made you get out of real estate in the beginning, and then what made you get back into it?
Well, I stopped because I got so successful and I started doing other things that I thought were a little bit more fun, like partying, gambling, chasing women, opening up other businesses, losing my focus on the prize at the same time that the market was changing. And that was originally back in the early 80s when the interest rates went way up. So I kind of deviated off the track. And one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, I went from retired and financially free at 30 to completely broke at 41, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and last but not least, financially bankrupt. When I say bankrupt, I had nothing. I borrowed some money to drive a car with no air condition, stayed in a hotel in the worst area in town. And one day I woke up and I made a decision. I made a decision to turn my life over to higher power, if you must say, God. And I also made a decision I would get it back into real estate. And I started again with zero money, but I made a decision and started to take action. I had a burning desire to get what I had again, and I started.
What were some of those actions that you took when you got back into it?
Well, when I got back into it, the first action I took, Brian, is going to sound a little voodoo or whatever, but I wrote down on an index card, a little index card, and I wrote down on a card that I was going to have 50 rentals by the time I was 50 years old. And by the time I was 49 years old, I had my 50 rentals. I know you want something a little bit more tangible than that, but that was the first step I did. Sitting in that hotel room, down lower than whale, you know what, and made a decision, wrote it on a card, and then I went to work. And what did that look like?
Yeah, what did that look like?
That looked like me waking up one day and going finding some owners. I can remember the first property that I bought here in Sarasota, Florida, was the same way that I had done it 20 years ago. I found an owner who would be responsive to taking some creative financing, and I bought my first property with no money down and created some cash flow. Because think about this, if you got no money, you cannot put down any money and you can't spend any money to do anything. So you've got to find a way to get property that's going to create some positive cash flow. And that's what I did. And I started the journey all over again.
What did that, Marc, what did that conversation sound like when you're talking to that seller? What did that conversation sound like to get someone to agree to no money down?
Well, basically it looks like this. You want to sell your house? Yes. Do you have some equity in the property? Yes. Are you open to a creative solution to create a win-win situation for both of us? I can take your property, you can get some money, and you can move on, and I can create you a mortgage on your property that I'll be paying you monthly. So you got to find a motivated or willing seller, and you got to create belief. Where does that belief begin? It begins first within yourself. You've got to believe that what you're doing is possible, because I can remember when I started real estate in 1978, and I was working in one of the first ERA offices in the country, and I had come up with this plan that I could buy houses with no money down. There were all these people in the office that were more seasoned than me. Nobody believed that you could do that. So I convinced them that I could do that, and I had them go out and find properties for me. And so the belief has to begin within yourself, no matter what journey you're on.
Yeah. So you get the first one, and did most of your first few that as you get back into real estate, most of them are kind of creative type of deals because you didn't have anything?
I had no money and I had no credit.
Yeah. Okay. So at what point did you feel like, hey, you know what? I've got some momentum here and I can start buying, I can start flipping, I can start doing some other things?
Well, after I had, after that first property that I bought, that I created cash flow. And at the beginning, it's kind of the properties that my experience was with was kind of not the best properties and weren't the best situations. But I bought that first property. It was a non-conforming duplex, which I don't buy much of that anymore. But early on, because it created more cash flow, and there were situations where the sellers had a harder time selling them to traditional financing, that creates an opportunity for us. So I started on that journey on finding these non-conforming properties where I could create some situations where I could maximize my income from it, but also help them get out of the situation that they were in.
And it was just persistent, consistent action from there. At what point, how long did it take until you felt like, hey, you know what? I'm on the path here. I feel good about the path I'm on.
Well, in 1998 is when I was at my bottom, is when I began the journey. And I just happened to see some of my goals from 2004. And if I look behind me, I may be able to even dig it up if it's close, but maybe not. Hate to lose your faith. But in 2004, I found my goals that I had written down, because every year I make my goals. And now I'm a lot more specific. I review my goals quarterly, but back then it was yearly and daily goals, but they led me to the year goals. In 2004, I think I put down, flip 4 houses, get 6 rental units. And it just began a process of year by year to continue to add to the rental portfolio that I had, because ultimately I knew I wanted to have the freedom that I have now. And the only way I know how to create that would be, one, make so much money that I never have to work again, which I haven't figured that one quite out yet. But I figured out how to make a little bit by a little bit. And I was working towards that goal of having 50 properties by the time I was 50. And like I said, by the time I was 49, I had those 50 rental properties, and I thought I had arrived. But it was daily, consistent action. Yeah. Times were good, times were bad. I had a little bleep in the action in 2007 when the market crashed. But that actually turned out to be the most opportune time over the last 20 years for me.
Okay, so talk about that, Mark.
Yeah, I will, because it's really important to understand this. It's always the right time to buy real estate if you know how to buy it. And what does that mean? The best example I can give you is an apartment complex that I bought. I bought it actually at the height of the market. And keep in mind that I buy standalone properties, and that means a property that I will pick up today, will put cash in Mr. Hip Pocket Bank, and I'll pay down the mortgage that I have on it. So that property that I had bought for like $1 million, at one point the value went down to $500,000. And then at another point it went up to $2 million. But all along it was still providing me that cash flow that I had at the beginning and paying down the mortgage. So buying property that takes care of itself, I could continue on that process whether the market was good or bad. So in 2007, when the market crashed, just like everybody else, I thought my whole world was falling apart. I had a couple of properties that went in foreclosure, and a lot of people had robbed their life and their self-esteem and their worth and how they felt about themselves. But very quickly, I tapped into what happened in the 80s, and I remembered, when everybody's running, it's time to be going towards. So it was a matter of 3 or 4 months that I was feeling bad because I had some foreclosures that I made a business decision that I was going to let go. I quickly aligned myself with the right mindset and started to take action in the direction of that goal of buying more real estate that would give me positive income, positive cash flow.
I love that you said this, because I actually have never heard someone say this before, and I wrote it down. It's always the right time to buy if you know how to buy. And I think there are a lot of people out there right now that think that either the correction is here, the correction's coming, whatever it may be. And it's like, it's just not the right time to buy right now. I'm going to wait for maybe a couple of years and see prices go down a little bit. It's just not the right time to buy. To that, you would say it's always the right time.
To that, I would say people were saying that thing a year ago. And how many people do you know have made money in this past year? If you're good enough to time the right time to buy real estate and when the correction is coming, let me know, because there's nothing I know about knowing about that. That's beyond my skill set. My skill set is this. If I can buy a piece of real estate right now that's going to put money in my pocket and I can pay down the mortgage, it doesn't matter what's going to happen, a correction, because I'm in this for the long haul. I'm holding property now to create the lifestyle that we really want to have.
And I love the what you said about the property that you bought for $1 million and it went all the way down to 500,000. I think a lot of people at that point panic. They panic because my property's worth half of what it's worth. I got to dump it. But if you buy for, it sounds like you're saying this, and you correct me if I'm wrong. If you're buying for cash flow and not necessarily for appreciation, you can get that, but you're buying specifically for the cash flow. That it doesn't matter if the value of the property goes up and down, because the cash flow should be consistent.
Right. And that's what we're looking for, cash flow. But you did say something really relevant. There's many people that think the market's going to correct or change. Those are where the opportunities lie, with those people who think they want to get out now. So the market is always an opportune time. People make millions of dollars in real estate, whether the market is good or whether the market is bad.
Yeah. Well, Marc, I want to talk about your book, Think Like a Real Estate Investor. I've had the pleasure of reading this, and it's
my booklet, you called it.
What is it? Your booklet?
Remember, you told me it was my booklet.
Well, I'll tell you what.
My entry piece to fame. You never know.
My first book it's not even in here, but my first book was about 70 pages long, and yours is right there, 69 pages. So it's
and I've
right
got
there.
A new one coming out soon. It should be ready by next month. It's going to be a real book, like 200 pages.
All right. Well, we're going to link that up but I want you to talk about this one for right now, Marc. It's called Think Like a Real Estate Investor, and there's very little about real estate investing in here. Talk about that. Why?
Well, because I believe no matter how much knowledge you have about real estate, and there's a lot of people that have a lot more than I do, if you don't have the right mindset to who you want to become and what you want to do with who you become, there's little chance of anything except maybe an overnight success story. If you can't continue to improve on yourself and day by day get better as a person, as an investor, I don't think the intellectual knowledge that real estate offers you, especially today, there's all kinds of people giving you so much information. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. But even if you get all the exact right strategies and processes and tactics, if you have all of them in your head, but you don't wake up in the morning with the right mindset and take the steps in the directions of what your goal is, it doesn't matter how much you know. And I'm living proof.
So, and we kind of already touched on this a little bit, but I do think it's interesting that there are a lot of people who crave. They're like, I want the tactic. Show me the tactics. Show me how to do a lease option better. I know the basics. Give me like the little thing to make it a little bit better. Give me the owner finance. Give me some different ways or some better ways to structure deals and all these different things. And they just want to continue to study the tactics.
Fall forward fast. Take action on what you know now. Figure it out later. There's always going to be a new, better, shiny object, better way to do something. You're not going to figure it out. You're not going to know how to put it into your own life. You're not going to know how to put it into your own real estate developing unless you take action and learn it yourself.
There's a couple of things you wrote in here I want to kind of point out. One thing, and you've told me this many times, but you wrote in here, and a lot of this, admittedly, is stuff that you've either read or heard over the years as you've gone about your career. But you've told me this many times, and then I read it in your book. Thoughts are things. What does that mean? Well,
what you think about and hold consciously until it's permeated into your being, it's unlikely that you can show up and make it manifest in your life. Everything is energy. Everything vibrates at a frequency. Until you can see it, you probably can't have it. But what you can see and hold true to and visualize on a regular basis and take action towards that will ultimately manifest, just like this book, just like the book. I had this vision for so long. I hate to say it, but it took me 30 years to write those 70 pages. And the real estate's the same way. It's going to take you some time, but you hold the thought, you take some action, and you keep that thought in your mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to kind of read exactly what you're saying right now. You wrote on page 20, thoughts lead to actions. Actions repeated daily become the habits that make us who we are.
Sounds like me. I wrote some good shit there, huh?
Talk about that because, well, just talk about this, Mark. There are people that might be listening to this that are going to think that this is hokey. They're going to think that this is not really Brian. This is not Mark. This isn't why I really tuned in to this episode. I want you to teach me a tactic. I want you to teach me a skill.
Well, the skill is to start yourself thinking right on a daily basis. Our thoughts are the language of our mind. Our feelings are the language of our body. When you have intellectual knowledge that you're thinking about that doesn't resonate with what you're feeling, it's unlikely that you can manifest it in your life. Our thoughts determine the words that we say to ourselves. And the words that we say to ourselves are the most important things that we can do. And the words that we say to ourselves will actually determine that the actions that we take, which will create our habits and ultimately our character and our destiny. So if we're thinking the wrong things and we're telling ourselves the wrong stuff, we actually can't take the action that we need to, which is part of the problem that people are having when they're getting the intellectual knowledge about real estate. They get the knowledge in their heads, they don't feel it in their belly, which won't open up their hearts to get them moving in the direction of what they want to manifest.
So, Mark, I've known you now for almost a year, going on a year. And
we're still talking, huh?
And we're still talking. But the first 6, 7, 8 months that I knew you, I didn't know. I asked you this question. I'm like, Mark, what do you do? I know you do real estate, but what do you do? We never really ever talked about real estate because, and it sounds like this is coming out of you today. It's not necessarily about the real estate. It's more about the actions that you're taking every day and the thoughts that you have that lead to those actions, whether they're good or bad. And that's going to lead you down the path that where you are today.
I would agree with that 100%. Sounds like me.
It sounds like you.
Oh, that's why I take specific actions every single morning before I get out of the door to make sure that I'm consciously directing the thoughts that I have, which will lead to the actions that I take, whether it's about real estate, whether it's about my health, whether it's about my relationships. Just about everything in my life is designed and directed by conscious thought. When you can get your subconscious aligned with your conscious, the default switch will be the same thing, and that's when you know you're rocking and rolling.
Well, Mark, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over this past year, and I think that there's a couple of takeaways. Number one is get a mentor. Find someone who is going to actually teach you. Anyone can teach the tactics. You can get a book. You can watch videos. The tactics are everywhere. But where are you in relation to the daily habits? I can't help but think of some books that I've read recently, like The Compound Effect.
Great book.
Atomic Habits. Some of these books that teach The Slight Edge. Some of these books that teach us how to build great habits, because like you said, the habits lead to or that leads to the actions. The thoughts lead to the actions. Actions become habits. And I can't. Over this past year for me that I've been studying this stuff, it's true. It's manifested in my life. So it's incredible. So number one is find a mentor who is leading you down that path to help create great habits inside of you. And so what do you think about that?
I think that's the ultimate way to success in whether it's real estate or anything about life, to feel good about yourself and to have a life of your dreams. Making yourself better on a daily basis is the way to success, and success doesn't necessarily mean financial success. There's many other things that are rich that come before money. And so it's those habits. Number one, to be successful is to have a positive mental attitude. So if you can have a positive mental attitude that you bring to the game of life, the game of real estate, the game of everything, then you're on your way. So I agree 100%.
So the big takeaway for me in this show is, one, find a mentor or someone that's done it before, or in my case, I'm talking to you on a pretty regular basis, and I consider that a form of mentoring because I learned so much from you every single time we talk. But number two, I want to challenge you guys. I want to challenge anyone that's listening to this right now is what are your daily actions? What are your daily habits? Are they good habits or bad habits? The Slight Edge, Jeff Olson teaches us that we never stay stagnant. We never stay the same. We're either trending up or we're trending down. It's one or the other. So which one are you? What are you doing on a daily basis to hopefully trend yourself up the right way? So Marc, with that, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us some great perspective. Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. Tell everybody what you got going on right now. I know you do REI Live, obviously, down in Sarasota. What do you have going on down where you are, and how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to marcpelletz.com, and you can find me. That's the best way to find me, marcpelletz.com. We got a lot of things going on, and actually, REI Live is going big. I'm going up to Columbia, South Carolina next week to help one of our guys, Andrew, in Columbia. So next Tuesday down there, next Thursday here in Sarasota, we got a live event here, and we're moving forward where we now are training and mentoring people. And actually, we've had an unbelievable week. 3 of our students all got their first deal this week. So we're really excited about that, and that creates a lot of energy and excitement around here. You know, we've all heard it before. You help enough people get what they want, you're always going to get what you want. We've got IQ Investor Quarters here in Sarasota, Florida. We got an education and instruction center. We're doing a transformation class, 45 days here. We got a full house, and nothing brings me more joy than watching people get happy, get successful, take action. I've had some people this week tell me they've been to Tony Robbins, they've been to Jack Canfield, they've been to seminars all around, but never have they put one foot in front of the other and actually left the door and started taking action, and their life is changing. They're feeding the good wolf instead of the bad wolf, and that makes me happy and lets me know that I'm on the right track.
Guys, if you are in Sarasota, Bradenton, even Tampa, St. Pete, anywhere in that, what do you guys call that? Southwest Florida, anywhere in that little area over there, get in touch with Marc and what they're doing, and Brittany and Paul that are down REI Live Sarasota. You guys are doing an incredible job. I'm so proud of you, and I'm honored to know you. And also, Marc, we're going to link up your book. We're going to link that up in the show notes. Think Like a Real Estate Investor. Guys, go get this right now. It's super cheap and it's super applicable. So it helps you take action right away. So go do that. And Marc, let us know when your next book's out. We want to make sure we link that up as well.
And we're getting ready to see you in Birmingham in just a couple weeks down the road.
That's right.
Is it red? Is red the color of
No, red's no good. It's crimson. We got to get you a shirt, Marc. We got to get you some gear.
I'm glad you having a shirt for me, Brian. I'm coming a long way just because of you, buddy.
We'll make it happen. Marc, we love you so much. Thank you for coming on the show. And guys, we love you. Thanks for listening. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. Got some great shows on the horizon. We love you, and we're going to see you next time.